Hey everyone, I would like to talk about NHS wheelchair service. You know, Ross Care Company and NHS wheelchair services are working together. On their website they state that they are the approved repairer for the NHS, that they have 10 service centres across England and Wales, which provide excellent local coverage, with good response time and 70 skilled engineers out in the community fixing wheelchairs, with a high percentage being fixed usually on the first visit. However, this summer I thought I needed a new footplates and the wheelchair services agreed that. But Brexit is making the situation difficult because we have to wait 2 to 3 months for parts to come from Europe. This is terrible for disabled people and people with illnesses. They need an emergency wheelchair service because it may be painful to borrow a wheelchair, or a manual wheelchair may make someone uncomfortable, and also they may be left on their beds. I believe with Brexit this may never change in the future, unfortunately. Anyway, I was back home from Morocco in September, however my footplates were still broken. I contacted the wheelchair services and I asked when the footplates would be arriving, but they said they didn't order the footplates. I was angry because they agreed before I went to Morocco. I waited for 7 weeks. On Friday last week, they came out to fix the footplates and to fit one of the parts whilst we still waited for the other parts to arrive. On Saturday morning I realized the footplates had turned upside down, and could not turn it the correct way. I called wheelchair services first thing, who advised that there was no one available to come to the house and fix today. I was advised that if I went to wheelchair services office now, someone would be able to look at the footplates there. I arrived just before 10 a.m. No one was expecting me or knew why I were there. No one was on reception, so I rang the bell. I explained to the female clinician what the issue was, and she went to find the technicians, who said that they would take the wheelchair to the warehouse and they explained I would need to come out of the wheelchair. I transferred to a chair in the waiting room, expecting it to be a quick job to adjust the footplates. Over an hour passed and I was still sat in the chair, which is not good for my posture. I need regular drinks, but my water was in my bag with the wheelchair. My PA couldn't leave me on my own, sat in the chair, in case I fell out. Luckily the female clinician walked past, and sat with me while my PA went to get my water bottle from the warehouse. I asked how much longer the job would take. They were unable to tell me. Every time I watched the clock it made me frustrated. At approximately 11:45 am, the wheelchair was brought back to the waiting area. The technician was going to walk away, but I asked him to stay to check the wheelchair was okay. I was transferred back into my wheelchair. I uses a communication aid called a Dynavox to talk, which is my voice. When I gets out of my wheelchair, this is then placed at the back of my wheelchair on a bracket. When I sit back in my wheelchair it is moved to the bracket at the side of me, so that she can access it easily. I realized that this bracket had been moved and turned upside down, so the slot was now facing the ground. My PA asked why this had been moved. The technician explained that it had caused them problems with the new arm of the footplate not being able to fit in place due to the bracket. He then said he did not know what it was. My PA suggested that they should have come to ask us what it was, before moving it. She explained how important this bracket was, and that it holds my Dynavox, and that I was now left unable to communicate. The technician stood apologizing but did not provide any solution. My PA asked if this could be turned the right way round and repositioned. Otherwise I would not be able to talk. He said that he would try. I then had to transfer back into the chair, again being told that I could not remain in the wheelchair. Another 20 minutes later the wheelchair was brought back. but the bracket was still not positioned correctly, and so the Dynavox was resting on my chest. I suggested that we leave the bracket and would sort this matter later, as I was worried it would get broken. My PA told the technician that my feet were not comfortable, and were too vertical, and the footplates needed tilting lower slightly. No one was around to speak to, so she rang the bell. A male clinician came. He said he would get the technicians for me before they went on their lunch break. Shortly later someone arrived who at this time I believed was a technician. He said that he would try to tilt the footplates. He went away to get tools. Returned, but they were the wrong tools. Then he went to get some more. On his return, he explained that he would have to remove both footplates and the metal plate itself. My PA explained that usually they can be tilted without doing all this. He assured me the screws were under the footplates to tilt it, and that removing the parts was the only way to get to them. He struggled to take the footplates apart, and I became increasingly worried about the state of my wheelchair. My PA politely asked him what his role was, and he explained that he was an administrator. She asked whether he was qualified to be working on my wheelchair, and he explained no, but said that he did have knowledge about wheelchairs. My PA asked where the other two men were, and he explained they were on their lunch break. She asked him whether under the circumstances, could he possibly ask them to return to finish the job. He went away to speak to them, but they both said they would not come and help. He apologized, and continued to try and help the situation. However, he was pushing on a screwdriver and trying to force the part to tilt. My PA explained again that she have seen people do it in the past, and the whole footplate should tilt as one piece. The part would not move despite his force, so my PA asked him to stop because I was worried it was going to break. While this was happening, my PA was having to hold my legs up, so that he could get to the footplates. My PA asked if she could speak to a manager, as I had now been at wheelchair services 3 hours. No one had offered me a drink or checked if I was okay. The admin man went to find his manager but said she was not in the building. My PA asked to speak to a senior. He said there was no one apart from the clinical lead, so she asked to speak with them. At this point a female manager returned but walked past me. I really wanted some reassurance this manager, but unfortunately, I did not get this. The manager entered the waiting area, and my PA explained I wanted to make a complaint. With a raised voice, she said that I should not be in the waiting room, and repairs should not be happening there. She came across as rude and aggressive. She said we should have not come in, and that this repair should be happening at home. My PA explained the situation and how long I'd been waiting. She continued with a raised voice, complaining to us that we shouldn't have come in, it's not safe. She said we are not clinical, and have never seen one of the machines, referring to the Dynavox, and that a technician should have come to the house. She proceeded to tell me that the technicians have other jobs to do in the warehouse, and it's not their responsibility to fix my wheelchair. I then signed for the manager to calm her voice down, and signed that I wanted to leave. The manner in which the manager spoke /shouted was not nice me and my PA. My PA explained this to the manager and said that as a manager, I have approached her asking to make a complaint, and that so far she has not apologized or asked me for any details regarding my complaint. My PA said to manager that she understand everything she has said, but that none of that was my fault, and should be addressed to her team, not me. My PA said to the manager that I felt she was shouting at me and my PA, and it was uncalled for, as we were not raising our voices. She replied that she is the manager, yet she is the only person in the building who didn't know we were there. Again, my PA said that this was out of my control. The manager then said she would go and read my notes. My PA explained that I had also been waiting a long time for my footplate parts, to which she replied, "Everyone is waiting for parts, not just me." Again, I do not think this is professional and was uncalled for. They went away to read my notes, and when she returned she did appear calmer. At this point she did apologize and said she did not mean to take it out on us, but was cross at what has happened. My PA explained again that I have approached her, hoping for an apology about how long I had to wait, but that instead of this, she has spoken to us with a raised voice. Whilst we do not think an administrator should have been working on my wheelchair, he was the only person in the building prepared to help and was polite throughout. He did manage to readjust the footplates, and checked I was comfortable. He realized himself that after all, he did not need to take the footplates to part, as my PA had originally said. He explained that the technicians had told him this is what he needed to do. Finally, upon loading into the car to go home, my PA realized that the technicians have positioned the bracket over the safety hook which is there to clamp my wheelchair down when in transit in the car. As we were outside for a while, the manager came out to have a look at what the problem was and said she would tell a technician to come to the house tomorrow to fix this issue too. This is my experience story. Well, I remember when I was growing up the wheelchair services was fantastic because the staff had knowledge about my needs and other disabled people. However, a few years ago more staff left the house wheelchair service because it was a new company called Care. What is happening to this situation? These private companies make the money, however one day we will have to pay for the wheelchair services and also for the hospital appointments. Thank you for listening to me. Let me know your experience of wheelchair services.